that.
Washington Journal continues.
Viveka Novak is with the Center for Responsive Politics, which runs OpenSecrets.org, a website that's a treasure trove of information about money in politics. She joins us today to talk about the money on both sides of the gun debate. And I want to start with the recent shootings in Oregon and now Texas and Arizona have reignited the gun debate in this country. Does that mean that gun control groups are going to be spending the money to actually make changes in policy? Are we seeing these groups actually putting up funding for an upcoming political fight?
Well, I think we're going to be seeing both sides putting up money because the gun rights groups are going to be on guard that there's going to be efforts, and there will be efforts to put more gun controls in place. The gun control groups see an opportunity where people are outraged and are going to be spending as well. Unfortunately, we don't see the numbers until a few months later, so we can't tell exactly what's going on in real time.
But we know what the history is, and this fight has traditionally been a lopsided one. Take us through sort of what the research shows of where the spending is and where it goes.
Yeah. I mean, really, gun control groups have been a blip on the screen when it comes to the money that's spent on this issue. In 2013, that was the year after Sandy Hook. The Sandy Hook shootings happened in December 2012. And that led to historic highs in lobbying spending by the NRA and other gun rights groups. They spent about $15.3 million lobbying Congress and hoping to prevent any sort of gun control measures from going through. And if you recall, there was something called the Manchin-Toomey Amendment, which would have expanded background checks to cover gun shows and some of the kinds of things that are being talked about now as well. And the NRA, you know, was sort of they're always spending the lion's share of the money on that side of the aisle. And so it spent about $3.4 million, had 3 dozen lobbyists working for it that year. The gun control groups spent a little over $2 million lobbying that year, so $2 million versus $15.3 million gives you kind of a sense of the imbalance.
Who are the main gun control groups?
Well, at this point, it's Every Town for Gun Safety, which is Mayor Bloomberg's, ex-Mayor Bloomberg's group, and there's a couple of others. Americans for Responsible Solutions is the group that was formed by former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords after she was shot in Arizona. And they've been spending money as well. Those are sort of the two main ones with the bulk of the money.
Is there a strategy for how the money has been spent by these groups in terms of who gets targeted for spending during a specific election cycle?
It's interesting because Mayor Bloomberg's groups have been criticized because they go after Democrats as well as Republicans. Democrats for not being strong enough on gun control. Democrats argue that it's worse to have Republicans in office because Republicans are always more pro-gun rights than Democrats. Whether that's always the case is not necessarily true, but it is often the case. The NRA and the other gun rights groups are, 90% of their money goes to helping elect Republicans.
And is it just the NRA? You mentioned some of the others. The NRA certainly gives the lion's share of the funding, but who are some of the other groups involved here?
There's the National Shooting Sports group. There is the National Association of Gun Rights, and there's Gun Owners of America. I'm sorry, that's another big one. Those are the main ones.
And how are the groups organized from a campaign finance perspective? Are there restrictions on how much money they can give in a specific cycle?
Sure. Their political action committees can give up to $5,000 per candidate per election. But a lot of these groups, especially the NRA, are now doing some of this outside spending, independent expenditures, which, as you know from your many discussions about Citizens United, it's now possible for them to put unlimited money into electing or defeating a candidate. And the NRA has been spending a great deal of money in this regard.